Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 42. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardall. If you want to get in on the show, go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Matt. Sean's at Sean Beatty. Kev's at Kev, the first thing believes in a three. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think of all the topics we're talking about. Follow our page in the Eli Network. Let's get to a quick topic, gentlemen, before we jump into the rest of our topics for the day. So I saw on Twitter there was a tease for the Madden cover athlete. It was not a great trailer. It was two goats coming out of a barn, and then the return of Peyton Hillis on the phone talking to somebody with a goat under his arm, and that is supposed to allude to who the cover athlete is. So I'm just going to read to you the last five cover athletes, just to give you a little bit of a depth of who it probably won't be, because they've never repeated a cover athlete. So Lamar Jackson was last year, Patrick Mahomes the year before, Antonio Brown, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, going back to the last 5 years. Obviously, the best cover is from 2015, Mr. Richard Sherman right here. Sorry for the bad lighting. There we go. That's the best one, of course. But gentlemen, I want your predictions on who you think the cover athlete should be. So I'm just going to go first here. Okay, so there are two goats, which makes me think it's two people. But I think I'm reading too much into this. I think a goat indicates one of the best players currently playing, and I believe it would be Aaron Rodgers. He has never been on the cover before, so I think he is the most likely candidate to be on the cover. But it could be like two older players that haven't played in a while that could be on the cover. So current player, my guess is Aaron Rodgers, and then two goats. I think it would be, my guess would be like Peyton Manning and Jerry Rice or something like that. But I think Aaron Rodgers is the safe bet here, although it could be like a Brett Favre situation where, he was on the cover and then they have to change his jersey because he's traded mid-season or mid-off-season. So that would be interesting to see if Aaron Rodgers on the cover and then have them change the jersey once again. But Sean, what do you think? Who do you think is going to be on the Madden cover?
So to not be like you and predict that, I was 50-50 that and 50-50 the other way. So I look at it as Peyton Hillis. Why the heck is he there? He's not relevant. What is the one thing we know about Peyton Hillis? Well, two things. He played for the Browns and he was a running back. So that leads me to believe that it's either Nick Chubb or Baker Mayfield. Kevin, you're muted. That leads me to believe Nick Chubb or Baker Mayfield, solely because of the Browns. I would agree that my first guess is Aaron Rodgers, like you, but I don't want to be the same, so I'm going to say Baker Mayfield.
Okay. Kevin, what do you think?
I would say if it's a GOAT theme, I wouldn't see why it would not be like Tom Brady or Rodgers. But
yeah, well, I didn't want to be Rodgers because Matthew picked Rodgers and Tom Brady was already a guy, so you got to pick somebody else.
They could repeat Tom Brady. I could see it, but
good. Yeah, especially since he's now not a Patriot.
If it was two goats, so if we're allowing repeat guys, I say that the two goats that they're going to show are Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and the baby goat's going to be Mahomes. That's what they're gonna do.
Okay.
But
okay.
If I didn't think they're repeating. So I went Baker.
Okay. Kevin, what do you think?
If they don't go based off quarterback, I'm trying to think receiver. I mean, it could be Nuke. If you're going receiver,
but why? But it's not the best. It's like why? What is that?
That's why the goats. Yeah.
Yeah. What does it have to do with the commercial? Like they're trying to hint at it. They said it was a hint. What does that have to do? A barn? Peyton Hillis? What? Why? What would lead you to Nuke?
Because Nuke will probably go down as one of the top best. I mean, he's not currently.
What does he have to do with a barn and Peyton Hillis? The barn.
Or maybe it's a complete throw off. Who knows, Sean?
It's the worst tease ever.
I mean, if they're going old school, they could do like.
It could be Jim Brown. He's a running back.
I was going to say Jim Brown.
Yeah.
Because Jim Brown is kind of the GOAT running back. One of the GOAT running backs.
And he plays for the Browns. Or he did play for the Browns. Yeah.
I'm guessing it probably might just be an older player that is retired. So, I mean, you have your pick of the lot. You could go, him, Barry Sanders.
I don't believe Adrian Peterson's been on the cover. That could be one as well. It's still playing, as far as I know.
Yeah, but I mean, even though AP was really good.
You think it's a running back?
I mean, if you're going with the Peyton Hillis theory, then running back would make sense, but it would have to be. I mean, it could be like I don't think LaDainian Tomlinson was ever on there.
That's why I said it was either Chubb or Baker Mayfield because Chubb with the running back, Baker with the Browns. Like I feel
If it's non-Browns, it has to be. If I think of GOAT, because I go to offense, I think of Montana or Barry Sanders.
the name, Kevin.
I mean, I think they're probably not going to go with a current player, so I'll probably say Montana. If it is a current player, I would probably say Brady just because he's off his Super Bowl win.
It's gonna be Brady.
Okay.
And he's on a different team, so it wouldn't look the same because he's going to be in a Bucs uniform.
Yeah,
So
True. So that would be the first repeat in Madden history. Let us know what you think of who the Madden cover athlete will be before Thursday. But let's get to some quick WNBA. The Storm lost on Sunday, June 6th, but since our last show, they have won 3 in a row. They defeated the Atlanta Dream 95-71 last Wednesday. They defeated the Atlanta Dream again 86-75. And then they played the Connecticut Sun and won yesterday 89-66. So Storm just keep on rolling. I believe they are one of the top-ranked teams along with the Las Vegas Aces in the Western Conference. So Storm just keep on rolling. But, gentlemen, let's move on to some Seattle Mariners. So looking at the last week, it wasn't great. There were some highlights. We'll obviously get to that here in just a little bit, but I'm going to recap the last week. So they played a 3-game series in Detroit starting last Tuesday, lost 5-3 the first one, won 9-6 on Wednesday. We're going to probably talk about that. They lost 8-3 on Thursday before heading to Cleveland, and they faced the Cleveland baseball team, lost 7-0 on Friday, lost 5-4 and 10 on Saturday before picking up a win against Shane Bieber, of all pitchers, 6-2 on Sunday. So, gentlemen, I'm going to start with Kevin here. Kevin, what were your thoughts on the Mariners this last week?
Just a lot of kind of the same. Some highlights. I love what I saw out of Logan Gilbert. That's for dang sure. Just very impressive. 6 2/3 innings. I think 6 Ks, 1 earned run. He had 1 walk, I think, right?
Yeah, I think just 1.
Super impressive. Good fastball. A little bit better location with it as I've been kind of getting on him over the last couple of weeks. So good stuff there. See what else. Our shortstop, Mr. Crawford's continuing to being a sexy kitten.
Asked about him, and then he just became a good baseball player.
I know, right? He's just like, screw these guys. I'll show them what's what.
Well, you two defended him. I
like JP. I will not poop on
now,
JP.
I didn't think he was going to go to the level of what he's doing. Now,
that's what makes him a good baseball player. Before, you guys were wrong, but now he's a good baseball player.
Yeah. Whether he continues it, we'll see. Like I said, we only have like a month to 2 month sample size. I want to see that continue on. Like if he's still doing this in like early September, yeah. Other than that, the only other really big one to really talk about would be Jake Fraley just coming out of nowhere and being a monster. That catch that we all saw against the Indians was kind of nutty.
Tigers.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Tigers, excuse me, was super crazy. Yeah. Kind of remind me a little bit of Ichiro-ness. I mean, what Ichiro did on that throw was just crazy. But, I mean, it was still good. It was still crazy. Like, it's definitely, especially from a guy you don't expect. Like, I expect that stuff from Ichiro because Ichiro was amazing. Like, where Jake Fraley, we're just kind of like, who's Jake Fraley kind of type of deal. So, negatives would be the
everything else.
I'm just going to point out and just say we need to trade Montero. Like, get whatever you can for him. Like a McChicken. Like I put on Twitter, I'm like, a McChicken that's been left out for like 6 hours. I don't care. Take it. Like that. Seriously, every time he comes out, it's a minimum of 1 run given up. Minimum. Like if that's what it feels like every time he comes out, he's just like, well, I'm going to at least give up 1 run. I might give up more. Like it's super frustrating. I could see why Texas was like, please have him. because he is a hot pile of garbage. And especially now that Graveman's back, like just dump him somewhere. Not even don't even send him to Tacoma. They don't deserve that. That's not fair. Don't even send him to any of the minor leagues. That like don't give him that trash. Just send him somewhere. Like to Poto, do your magic. Send him to like I don't know somewhere. Send him to Europe. I don't care. Send him backpacking through Europe. Just get something for him. Get $5. I don't care at this point. Just get him out of here because he is terrible. I'll pass that to Sean.
I agree with Kevin. I dial inside every time because of the mound. Like I'm just so done seeing Montero. I'd be one thing if it like I think I tweeted too like I'm tired of seeing him when the game matters or it's close. I don't want to see him anymore. He's not it. If we don't have a lead or whatever, I don't care. We're down by like 4 in the 8th. I don't care. Throw him out there. But like we got a lead. He was 1 strike away from beating the Indians and can't up by 3 runs.
Cleveland baseball team.
Cleveland baseball team. Sorry. He can't. He just can't do anything. Like they're technically still the Indians. I had to look it up.
I know.
But yeah,
I'm trying to train you now, but keep going.
I know. But I still mess up the freaking Raiders. But he's just terrible. I will say the thing I like too. Kevin forgot Kikuchi. That's Kevin's boy, so I thought he would. Kikuchi looked great. I love Kikuchi and Gilbert. That was what I was really like to see. I mean, obviously I would have liked him to win, but the win at the end of the day is I want the young kids to play well. Sheffield didn't look as good as I wanted. We cannot be 1-5 against the Tigers and want to be a good team, guys. Like 1-5 in the last 6 games against the Tigers is just not okay. That was incredibly frustrating. Who would have thought coming into the week we would basically only beat Shane Bieber too? I don't know. We beat Bieber twice now. I don't know what the heck this team is with Bieber and good baseball teams, but we can't beat anybody else. And I also wanted to say Jake Fraley, who's gonna base 3 more times again tonight. Let's just keep
already has an RBI tonight.
Yeah, let's just keep running him out there because at this point, let's just see what he is. Because I mean, he had a little bit of hype 2 years ago. Never really played anything like that. I say a little. He wasn't like might not be anything. But for a 4th outfielder, heck, he's getting on base. His OPS is like 900. So let's just see what he does. He's walked twice again. Apparently, he just never gets out. So it doesn't seem to matter. And I'm glad that Aaron Goldsmith. We all know that it's okay when any of our voices crack because when his cracked during the call for Jake Fraley, it made me feel good inside. So top 5 call of all time, probably for Mariners history. Maybe it's close. Dave Niehaus has like a bajillion great ones, but I loved it. And I think the internet loved it too. So I loved Aaron Goldsmith's call. And then Jake Fraley got the game winning hit. So let him keep playing.
First of all, how dare you? Dave Niehaus will always have the top 5 calls in Mariners until otherwise said. Okay, that was a pretty decent call, but don't.
What are the other top 5? Like, I mean,
I didn't prepare a list, but I can next week if you want me to. But
yeah, the double, the laser. I mean, Drake Fraley is pretty good. Like, it was pretty good.
Jake Fraley. Okay,
yeah.
All right. Well, I'll give him credit for the call, but yeah, you guys already mentioned it. I mean, you know, injury has presented an opportunity for Jake Fraley, and he's taken advantage of it. You know, see how he keeps it going and how long he can keep it going for. But it's good to see players getting opportunity and doing the most with it, whether that means he is eventually traded for assets or just, you know, kept because depth is good. That is cool. So keep playing well, Jake. And, you know, if other guys get opportunities to play well and you know, in spite of bad circumstances, then that's great because we need to, you know, see as many guys as we can for hopefully some playoff years down the road. But, you know, JP Crawford has continued to play well, as both of you guys have mentioned. So hopefully he gets maybe an all-star nod. I see a lot of the Mariners Twitter and social media trying to advocate for that. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But it's, you know, it's not an easy position to get an all-star bid in. So we'll see how JP Crawford does, but it is fan voting, so anything is absolutely possible. So that's how he could probably get in because, you know, Mariners fans will probably turn out for him. I did vote for him once. So you got my vote, JP. But
Mariners fans are crazy.
Yeah, that's true. But let's talk a little bit about injuries before we get to that little bit of news that happened last week. So Kyle Lewis, June 11th. Lewis had surgery on his right meniscus Wednesday and is without a timetable to return. Brad Adam of Root Sports Northwest reported. June 12th, Evan White went 1 for 4 with 3-run home run, and AAA Tacoma's win over Sacramento on Friday. Sounds like Evan White is coming back fairly soon. And then Mitch Haniger, knee wasn't starting today against the Twins. I haven't heard an update. I heard it was a bruise. I'm not sure what you guys heard. Okay, so it doesn't sound like it is an extended period of time injury. So luckily the injury report is fairly clean for the most part. We've had a few weeks where it's just been kind of piling up. So it's nice to not have to worry too much about the injury report. But as we said, Jake Fraley's, the Jake Fraleys of the world, they can show up with those injury opportunities. So not necessarily the absolute worst thing to see what other guys have in spite of those guys going down. So let's talk a little bit about the trade the Mariners made. They acquired Jake Bauers from Cleveland on June 10th, which would be last Thursday. So they acquired first baseman Jake Bauers for a player to be named or cast considerations. It was announced Thursday. He started 25 of 43 games for Cleveland. He was batting 190 with 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. He was in the lineup for a couple games. Is he in the lineup tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, he is. So I haven't actually seen how he's performed in a Mariners uniform, but Sean, I'm going to throw it to you. What did you think of this trade, and does it mean anything?
I actually saw someone on Mariners Twitter suggest 2 weeks ago they get Bauers, so it was kind of ironic that they ended up doing it because the internet proved to be right once. I was actually reading what the guy said, and it made sense. He was an area of need, gets a little bit of flexibility based on injuries. He's playing about as well as he has in the past. It's not great, but again, when you give a guy up for cash, I don't expect him to come in and just be an all-star. He's a body. We don't have anybody else that we need to either call up or rushed up or waste a year of service time at this point because we don't have anybody ready at this point. So give a guy who's like a quad A player on another team that you give up like a couple $100,000 for a shot. I'm okay with it. Not a make or break move.
Kevin, what do you think of it?
I had to look up to see who the F he was, to be honest, because I was not. But after looking at his stat lines for a 25-year-old doing what he's doing at the moment, it's not something that really flies off the sheet at you. But I mean, he's still somewhat young. I mean, 25 is in baseball is. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like we didn't give up a whole lot for him, but who knows down the line? I mean, as we were kind of mentioning in our chat group, we didn't think much at the time when we traded for Lynn and gave up Peralta. But yeah, so was it something we really needed? Probably not. I mean, especially with Evan White coming back, but who knows? I mean, I'm not pissed at it, but I'm not excited for it. So whatever.
It could just be kind of, a backup in case Evan White gets hurt again, or just a little bit of depth never hurts.
Yeah.
A little bit more consistency defensively.
Yeah. Any worries from the Mitch Haniger injury from either of you?
I mean, it only worries me because it's Mitch Haniger. This guy just cannot catch a freaking break. But no, not specifically the injury. I mean, it sounds like they avoided most of the actual damage or the major stuff. So no.
Kevin, any worry?
No. The only thing is because it was another freak thing, a foul ball that got him right in the kneecap. Like I was panicking when I saw it, but now with later details, no, it's just because all of his injuries have been freak things. He's just cursed a little bit, but when he's there, he's just good. So we want that man in our lineup. That's the only concern I have. Is just I don't want him to miss time, like extensive time, because he's pretty much our best player. So,
yeah, very true. Very true. Let's get a quick prospect update. So I'm going to go ahead and start because I see on my timeline Jared Kelenic just hit a home run for the Tacoma Rainiers. So get well, Jared Kelenic down there, and then we'll see you back up by the end of the month, I'm sure. So just keep doing your thing, Jared. You'll be back up in no time. Anybody have another prospect update? Maybe a Julio update? Sean, looking at you.
Marte was just named one of the 2 minor league players of the week again. This is the second time already this year. The dude is apparently pretty good when your OP or your WRC plus is over 200. So I think it's time to move him up. And the other one is Cal Raleigh, who I think he ended his streak at 21 games. So
you got another hit tonight.
Oh, so it's still going. Okay, so I hadn't heard yet. So it's what 22 games now. So these 2 guys need to be moving on up levels. I don't see why they're still where they're at. And I'm very selfish because I want to see Marte next week play for the Aqua Sox. So yeah.
Kevin, any updates on your end?
You guys pretty much kind of mentioned it. Going through here, didn't really see anything much else, to be honest. Other than just to emphasize what Cal Raleigh is doing down below is kind of nutty. I mean, and Marte as well, just being a sexy kitten. We had insight info from our buddy Brett, who got to see Mr. Kirby live and got to see the radar gun not be able to clock what he was doing. Shout out to our buddy Brett. So I guess Kirby's still looking sexy as well. But all the prospects look good and hungry, and can't wait to see them back up.
All right, so let's do one last thing before we move on to some NFL, some Seahawks. Next week, the Everett Aqua Sox are coming to town for you guys. Do you have plans to go? As of right now, it seems like Julio will come back to Everett. I don't know when that tournament ends, but who are you most excited to see as long as they are still – who are your top – let's go top 2 that you're most excited to see if they're still there? Kevin, I want to start with you.
The pitchers.
Yeah.
Because I think Hancock is supposed to pitch and Kirby as well.
Yep.
Are they still slated to pitch?
Yeah, as of now.
So, I mean, and if Julio's there, I'll take that as well. I want to see our Tri-Cities team get murdered by them. Like I will at no point be rooting for Tri-Cities team at all. I'll be screaming Aqua Sox the whole friggin' time. Well, I mean, just for the players, to be honest. And just be like, hey, look up at me, sign my crap,
Sean?
I would say the 2 pitchers, Hancock and Kirby, but because since Kevin already took them, I'll say Zach DeLoach is the one I want to see, the second round outfielder that we drafted last year.
Okay. And are you going to get there early and utilize Nolan to get some autographs?
No, we talked about it maybe the next 2 days, but he's going to has to be in bed at a certain time, and that's basically game time. So he will be a sleeping ball at that point. He'll just have passed out. So.
All right. Well, maybe next year, Nolan. Maybe next year, but I'm hopefully there is a good crop of prospects for them for next year, so Nolan can get to see some great baseball. Sean, do you have a nerd stat of the week?
I really don't. I do have a little one that if you guys want to talk about, I guess, but so there was a new metric that I was listening to a podcast that incorporated grading scale from familiar with like PFF and those type of things, along with EPA metrics. And let me get it out here. And it ranked, and this was solely based on quarterback because it's really new. And it said that oh gosh, where was it at? Efficiency is better for trimming the fat. So essentially, like, it's good for context. It better grades sacks and scrambling. It's basically a decision-making metric. Grade is better for the individual person. So like grading the individual play, the throw. So like EPA will be like, if you throw a screen for 40 yards, it'll look really good versus like if a guy actually threaded the needle in. And I will say, can you guess who the number 1 quarterback was according to this new metric?
I mean, I feel like this is an obvious answer and it's Russ, but that would be a terrible trick that you would play, but Kevin, I'll go with Russ.
I'm giving nothing away.
I'm gonna guess Mahomes.
Well, Kevin is clearly correct. It was so lopsided actually in this new grading scale that Mahomes was the same. Russell was de facto number 2. Just technically Deshaun Watson was number 2, but that's a whole different issue. So Russell's number 2. But the difference between Russell and Mahomes was the same difference as Russell to the number 21 quarterback. That's how much better Mahomes is at his individual decision making and what he can do with the football. So it was just another quick stat, and there's more to be worked on with this stat. I listened to it's called Wharton Moneyball and that type of thing. That wasn't the actual one, but they referenced it as well, or a stat similar to it. It's a good podcast. You check it out, and it's new. It doesn't have quite have a name yet because it's got a big long acronym and it's kind of hard to pronounce, but it's a very good, cool way to like incorporate both the grading scale that people seem to hate because it doesn't agree with their preconceived notion of what someone's value is, Jamal Adams, and EPA, which they both have innate flaws in them. So it's kind of to trim the fat on both of them, I guess, is the best way to put it.
All right. Well, good segue, Sean, into some Seahawks and NFL talk. So let's talk about quickly the Russell Wilson comments. So the Seahawks are currently at minicamp. And I did want to bring up the interview that Russ did before minicamp happened. So this is courtesy of Michael Sean Dugar of The Athletic on his Twitter page. So he was there interviewing Russ. And Russ said that he did not request a trade. He says his offseason comments were not meant to be a slight towards his offensive line. He's essentially, this is direct quote from Michael Sean Dugar's Twitter. Russ is essentially saying he and his agent gave ESPN those 4 of trade destinations to clear confusion about whether he requested a trade. He did not request a trade, but if Seattle was to move him, those were the 4 he'd waive the no trade clause for. And Russ says he brought up with Pete Carroll the idea of restructuring his contract in the name of winning. Reed signing talent, says they had a long talk about it. Russ' deal has not been restructured. Russ says he wants to win. Russ says he didn't have any combos with his offensive line regarding his offseason comments. He says he didn't have to explain anything to his teammates, really, though Bobby Wagner did call Russ and get an explanation. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on these comments. So we talked about this when it first initially came out. What I want to say about it is I don't believe Russ. He's very good at saying things that the media wants to hear, that the fans want to hear. As I have gotten older in my life in general, actions speak far louder than words. So Russ, if you're true and you want to be here, I'll just wait for you to sign that extension. But until you do that, I am pretty convinced you're on your way out once your contract is over. Now, it's possible your contract could run out and you could re-sign with the Seahawks. That is absolutely possible. But my notion is that all that smoke that happened after the offseason, that was, your trade destinations and all that sort of thing, seemed very unhappy with the way the offense was called and all that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of merit to it. And I think you're trying to kind of play both sides. You want to keep the fans happy, but you also don't want to let the organization know that you are ready to leave. So, Russ, it's great to have you in a Hawks uniform. I'd love to have you in a Hawks uniform for your entire career. But if you want to go, fly, be free, go. And after your contract's over, I'll root for you, but not the team you play for, most likely. So, but while you're here, let's win some more Super Bowls, please. Like, that sounds absolutely great. So that's my thoughts on it. Sean, what do you think?
Kevin, you're correct. It's, you never give 4 teams your okay to be traded to unless, like, I wouldn't say, I think, I know Kevin's the same way. I don't think Russell actively sought a trade. He said the thing of like, look, we need to win, and this is how you do the winning. And unless we start doing that, I will leave. That is what he told Pete, or told them. He's like, we need to change how we're doing it because one and dones in the playoffs isn't going to cut it. That's not a legacy. That's not real winning. I don't care if we went 12-4. It meant nothing. So we didn't have a real chance of winning a Super Bowl. So all he wants is a real chance to win the Super Bowl. And the way that the team is constructed and the way the team is run was not able to do that last year. So I think Russell, you don't give 4 teams if you're just okay with how the things are going. Like you said, Bobby Wagner doesn't call you to get clarification if everybody knows it's okay. Like that's not happening. Everything you basically said, Matthew, pointed to. Again, I think Russell's true in the fact that he didn't formally request a trade, but he said, "Look, if you don't do this, I'm leaving." And the Seahawks are not restructuring his deal because they can restructure his deal without asking him. It would be very simple to restructure his deal and get Julio Jones. They did not restructure the deal because they know if they did, they could not trade Russell. So, because they'd push all their money back and be a huge cap hit for them and the team taking him, that lends me to believe that this is not a done discussion. It was not a non-story. I don't think he's going to be moved this offseason, but I think if they struggle again this year, when it matters in the most in the playoffs, it will be a bigger issue next year.
Yeah. Devin, what do you think?
I would say it. Welcome back, Robot Russell. Pretty much. This was kind of the robot response. It's pretty much most of what Sean said was, well, all of it, what Sean said was true. Just to add on to it, I think the restructure part, I agree with because a lot more players are doing it now. Just because of the whole signing bonus thing. I mean, Tom Brady's done it for so damn long.
A lot of quarterbacks did this offseason.
A lot of, yes, exactly.
Again,
and so
the team does not need to ask the player for to restructure. They just do it. It does not need player approval.
But usually that's not Pete's style.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that
so
teams don't.
I think he was more saying, Pete, it's okay if you want to do that. Like, you're not going to hear a grievance from me. Type.
He's done it once already in his career. So, like,
yes.
It's not,
I think especially, I don't think Pete changed his mind because of Russell. I think Pete changed his mind because of Nick Saban, as I've already previously mentioned. And then once Pete kind of got on board with that, then Russell, you saw, was a little bit happier. And that's why he's just like full blown, like we've already mentioned, just zoned in, like already apparent. Like there was that tweet saying that he's like, he already pre-read Walden's like playbook to where he had it down before OTAs even started to where they could start working on it day one from OTAs. Like that's, now I'm not saying he wouldn't do that. It's kind of hard because Russell is always very determined to like win and stuff like that. But especially now with, I think he's more excited than ever because I think Pete is possibly finally doing that transition with Nick Saban saying, don't be an idiot. And so also because this whole off season with Russell doing that, with DK kind of like the whole media kind of put Pete Carroll style on blast saying it didn't work. And it's true, it did not work. And I think that kind of added on to it, but I think Nick Saban was the final nail in the coffin. But I mean, yes, Russell pretty much was saying that he was going to leave if we kept feeding Chris Carson, half the damn plays. So why not? The shot at the O-line type of deal, I don't think I think he's more saying that it wasn't about them personally. It's just he wants to maximize the best potential, just like at every position. You want to put the best players possible. He's not going out there and saying specifically, this guy's crap. We need to, probably not saying he should, but it is true. We have pieces on that O-line that are not excellent. They're not all Dwayne Brown caliber. And that's what you should strive for, kind of like what Dallas did. Oh, I mean, though Dallas put a first round pick at each position. So I think that was just more of him just saying, hey, I'm not personally attacking. I'm just saying we want to get to the best level possible at each position level, especially since he has been, he has the right to say it. He's like pretty much one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. So, and he's getting older. So you need to protect him if you're going to go to a throwing style offense.
Yeah. I think we all made valid points there. So we'll see what happens with the Russ, with Russ this year, and next off season will be quite interesting, depending on what happens during the season in 2021, 2022. But let's talk about some safety rankings. So Pro Football Focus has been doing a lot of position rankings, and I really wanted to talk about safety because Sean has been just saving up for a long time his takes on Jamal Adams. So I'm just going to run down the top 10 safeties according to Pro Football Focus. So Justin Simmons, Denver Broncos is number 1. Harrison Smith, Minnesota Vikings, number 2. John Johnson, the third, Cleveland Browns. Marcus Williams, New Orleans Saints. Minka Fitzpatrick, Pittsburgh Steelers, number 5. Derwin James, number 6, Los Angeles Chargers. Marcus May, New York Jets, number 7. Jesse Bates III, Cincinnati. Adrian Amos, Green Bay Packers at number 9. And at number 10 is Jamal Adams of the Seattle Seahawks. Right behind him is Tyrann Mathieu of the Kansas City Chiefs, just for reference of who's behind him. Also 14, Micah Hyde. Kevin Byard of the Titans is 12. Anthony Harris is 13. And I guess I went to top 15. Jordan Poyer of the Buffalo Bills is number 15. So I wanted to kind of talk about these rankings and see what you guys think of them. And Sean has some things he wants to talk about with Jamal Adams. So Sean, the floor is yours. Tell us what you've wanted to tell us about Jamal Adams.
I'll talk about the list because I feel like that's important.
Okay.
Oh shoot, I just clicked on the wrong one. But I think a lot of this comes down to, so it's predicting the future. It's not like what they've been. It's like a lot of it's name recognitions and what they're assuming they will be in the future. And a lot of this comes down to, unfortunately, is what me and Kevin have dealt with in fantasy drafts and some people, and it's like the name biased. So because there's person has a name, they have to be ranked higher. The biggest one that comes to mind is Harrison Smith at 2. There's no way on the planet he's the second best safety anymore in football. It's a lot of these people get name bumps, whereas like the actual best safety for a couple of years has been the guy from Cincinnati, if Bates, like, and he's where was he even on the list? Was he 8th? Like, yeah, 8th. He's the best. Like, even the safety that replaced
Marcus May,
is 7th. He's like arguably top 3 because they're not names yet. I think these lists downgrade them and move up guys, and it happens a lot with quarterbacks too that are really aging out of the position. It's past performance, not future performance. So I disagree with most of the list. Football's a young person game. Let the young kids need to be bumped up. I'm not saying Jamal Adams is old, but I'm just saying like he got a name for the Jets and didn't play well last year. He shouldn't be very high. He's probably in the right-ish spot. I think he'll bounce back this next year, but I have some stats to tell you how bad he was last year.
I'll go ahead and take it here, Kevin, just real quick. I would agree, Sean, with what you said, that I think based on his year last year, I think Jamal Adams is right about where he should be. Of course, there is going to be disagreements here and there. Like, I mean, Tyrann Mathieu, he probably has the name recognition for me as well. I'm surprised he was at 11. I thought he might be a little bit higher. I thought both Buffalo Bills safeties, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer at 14 and 15, should have been a little bit higher personally. And then Budda Baker also is one who was very he was laughing at this ranking. I'm going to quote his tweet. "I'll keep getting all pros and Pro Bowls from my peers and fans. Why y'all keep spitting out false bowl poop information, a career high 68.9. Don't mention my name anymore. Laugh at all y'all. Forget why I was drafted to the Cardinals at Pro Football Focus." So, to Buddha's point, I would have to agree with Buddha, not necessarily like, keep my name out of your mouth type stuff, because it's Pro Football Focus. You're going to do that. But, I want people to realize that these Pro Football Focus grades are on a somewhat subjective scale. So it's not necessarily the be all end all list. And obviously there's no set ranking. So, it's totally a subjective view of who is the best safety and who is not the best safety. So to Buddha's point, I mean, I think he's a pretty solid safety. Now, where would I rank him? I'd probably go a little bit higher than 16. I think he's worthy of top 10, maybe at lowest like 11, 12. And also they do put in his bio, like his most memorable play was getting chased down by DK Metcalf. I would I don't watch the
Right.
Cardinals super regularly, but I'm sure there are a lot better plays than that.
But that's the most memorable. People know that play. That is his
Yeah,
most
that is
memorable
true.
play.
That is true. That is his most memorable play. But as long as Buddha keeps doing Buddha Baker things, I don't think clearly doesn't care about what they think. And as long as he keeps playing, then I think he'll only get better. And he's a young safety too. So also to Jamal Adams, I mean, he had a bad year, so he could have been higher had he had a okay year. So obviously these safety rankings are subjective to Pro Football Focus. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting list. I don't know why Buda Baker's kind of getting his pants all in a toughie over it type of deal. I mean, it's just one dude ranking. Like, who cares what Sam Monson thinks about where you should be at? A lot of these like lists too. Like, I used to like back in the day kind of get peeved over these, but like it's just a dude's opinion kind of deal, and everybody's going to have their own. I like where John Johnson's at. I agree with that. He was with the Rams last year and moving over to Cleveland. He is the top, as Sean already mentioned. Jesse Bates III probably is the best safety. The only thing I do that kind of frustrates me, because I do believe Derwin James is the top safety, even though he's been hurt quite a bit. The fact that we could have probably just gotten him instead of trading 2 first-round picks to go get Mr. Adams. Jamal Adams, as we're going to get to here in a little bit. I don't know if he's top 10 or not. My bias kind of wants to put him at the low 10s, but at the same time, with the stats that Sean's about to bury him with.
You're making it sound like I hate the guy.
Yeah, I know. I love his fire. Don't get me wrong. Like, the fact that that's what, like, I don't hate him because he loves being here and he wants to help this team get a Super Bowl. That's what I do love. It's just, and it's also not his fault because Pete's just putting him in dumb schemes and scenarios, which Sean's going to get to in a little bit. So for the most part, the list is okay. I might change a couple things up here and there, but like, it's just one guy's list. So I just don't see why Buda Baker's like just freaking out over it. Like, it's just some dude at PFF.com putting the list up.
Okay, so I'm going to let Sean get to his stats here, but before he gets to his stats, I want to share my thoughts on Jamal Adams just very quickly. He did not have a good year last year. I think we can all agree on that. But if that is one of his worst years, it wasn't. I'm excited for what could be this year, because if he plays well this year, then the defense can get significantly better. And, obviously his role is a little bit multifaceted because he does rush the quarterback as often as he does from the safety position. And he did set the sack record as a DB. Now, granted, that's not necessarily where you want a DB, but that is a significant thing nonetheless. Now, Sean would say that's a quarterback stat, but overall, you still need to get those tackles and, complete the tackles and get those sacks. So it's not a completely insignificant thing. So I think he did not have a good first year in Seattle, but if that is like his floor, then that can only be good for this defense in the coming season. Now, obviously, he's got to improve, as Sean will elaborate on. Kevin, you want to say anything before Sean gets into his spiel here?
What I was going to mention too, just because I see it a lot on Twitter, and I'm just to where Sean can kind of bring this up. A lot of, I think after saying that, a lot of 12 seeing this are going to be like, what are you talking about, Matt? Yeah. Jamal Adams had a great first season last year. And I want Sean to tell 12s why he did not have a good season last year. He was not a good safety last year. But because, see, they're just getting told by like the announcers of the game, be like, oh my God, he just broke a single season record for a DB getting sacks. And everybody's like, Jamal Adams is great. Like, so I know Sean will probably get into this too. He did not have a good year last year. And Sean is going to mention along with why he was a bad safety, because a lot of 12s out there think he had a great year last year. And we're going to let you know why he did not. So,
all right, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to break it down with who the Seahawks played because the Seahawks did not play good quarterbacks last year. Do you guys want to guess? I'll have this interactive. Do you guys want to guess with all the 17 or they played 17 games or 16 games? How many quarterbacks did they face that finished in the top half of the league as passers overall?
Well,
gotta
not
go
the
back to
49ers, not the
Just pick a
Rams.
number. So
Oh,
it's 1 to 16.
I know one.
Yeah, Kyler.
No, I'm thinking Kirk.
I would say 3.
Because Kyler pooped toward the end of the year because he got hurt.
Kevin,
They faced him twice.
Yep.
Yeah,
quick one.
We played one?
No, quick one. Quick.
Oh.
What's the number?
I'll say 2.
They played 5.
Oh.
Kyler Murray was 2 of them, and he was exactly half. So I rounded up and gave them 5. So they basically, Kevin's
Hold
right.
on, Josh Allen,
Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
And then
Kirk
Cousins. Those are the 3 were the top half of the league. Everybody else was terrible. So at the first 11 games of the season, the EPA for Jamal Adams on and off the field was identical, 0.11, which it's not great, but so at that point in the league, so everyone says Jamal Adams and the defense got better after he came back because at the end of the year, Jamal Adams, the defense, so that you look at the overall stats, Jamal Adams, they were much better with Jamal Adams on the field than they weren't. I say that's a problem because I just told you through 11 weeks, they were the same. The first 11 weeks, they played Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Dak Prescott. He didn't really play because he got hurt. Jamal Adams, not Dak Prescott. And then he comes back and he plays Josh Allen. Josh Allen drops 44 points on that team. Like, they didn't play well. They played Goff. They played Kyler. They played Wentz, who was terrible. These other teams. They just played bad quarterbacks the first 11 weeks. After that, they played the third worst, second worst, and fourth worst quarterbacks in the league, all of which do not have jobs on their current teams anymore after he came back. So yeah, Jamal Adams, the team improved, not because Jamal Adams came back, but because the quarterbacks they played were so terrible. 10 of the 16 teams that they played last year don't even have a job with the team they have last year. The Seahawks basically played no quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford would be the third best quarterback they played last year if they had played Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford is going to the Rams. That's why it's relevant. You should be scared. So as Jamal Adams, that shows you they played nobody. These is his stats that he played last year. Now, I don't have the advanced stats because I was working with somebody and he didn't get back to me in time, but I have like the raw stats, like the passer rating, the touchdowns, the yards. And I looked at these subjectively. I did not look at these like raw because I feel like the raw ones lie to you. So like I didn't penalize Jamal Adams when a screen pass was thrown at Jamal Adams is 10 yards downfield, and technically he's the closest receiver, and these yards count against Jamal Adams. That is not Jamal Adams' fault in my book, so I did not count those against Jamal Adams because that's not fair. Or something else similar to that. I looked at it, could Jamal Adams have made a play on this play? So overall, the full season, Jamal Adams, the ball being thrown at Jamal Adams, the passer rating against was 132. Again, context is 153 is perfect. He had given up 8 touchdowns against him. He did not play the full season. He played 12 games. 8 touchdowns in 12 games just throwing at Jamal Adams. When he rushed the quarterback, and this is what Kevin was talking about. So everyone looks at the quarterback sacks. He got 10.5. I'm starting to develop this quarterback stat, and I have a list of everybody here. I watched every single Seahawks play. These are their actual stats. It's called, I'm like doing like WAR, sacks above replacements, like actual sacks that talent was needed to get the sack. Not a fat guy runs into the quarterback. Jamal Adam got 10.5 sacks. He earned 3.5 sacks that year. 7 were unblocked. Like literally anybody, like the last guy on the roster, the Seahawks roster, I mean, other than like a punter, could have sacked the quarterback on 7 of his 10 sacks. So he got 3 sacks that took talent. And some of those, even then, he chased down Cam Newton. A fast guy could have chased down Cam Newton. But I will give him 3.5 sacks. Jamal Adams got a sack rate of a little less. I rounded up 11%. So every time he blitzed, 11% of the time he got there. When he didn't get there, the passer rating was 110 against him. That was all quarterbacks, everything like that, with 5 touchdowns given up. So I removed the bad quarterbacks I told you, and I just went with the ones that were the top 20 in the league, not just the top 20. Again, the passer rating at Jamal Adams is 132, about the same. The passer rating when Jamal Adams blitzed was 142. It's almost perfect. Jamal Adams blitzing against good teams was a terrible idea. Again, the other team was basically perfect when Jamal Adams blitzed last year. He got 5 sacks, but he gave up all 5 of his touchdowns against good teams. He only played 12 games. 140 passer rating on blitzes is just not feasible. It's not a sustainable number. I don't see why they look at the 10 and a half and they're like, look at this volume. It's the analogy comes to the NBA. If I'm an NBA coach, I can get anybody in the NBA 30 points a game. Now, will my team win games? Absolutely not. Will my offense be good? Absolutely not. But if I get in there and I feed Chris Bosh that basketball 40 times a game, he will turn around and put the ball in 20 times. And that'll be 40 points. We might lose 60 to 120, but I'll get that guy 30 points a game. And that's what Jamal Adam was. It was just volume. Opportunity cost. The opportunity cost was the quarterbacks were almost perfect when Jamal Adams blitzed. Almost perfect. And that's why Jamal Adams just had a terrible year. And I think a lot of that also comes down to that's not just the Jamal Adams thing. That is a defensive scheme thing. Stop blitzing him so much. The game that we talked on this podcast about was the Buffalo Bills game. Jamal Adams blitzed it in the first, and he got up there, and Josh Allen pointed at Jamal Adams and immediately threw the ball twice in a row to the same spot where Jamal Adams was supposed to be. The other teams knew it was coming and threw it at him. And he still was like, I'm going to show you the blitz. I'm going to show you the blitz. And yeah, he'll get there occasionally, 11% of the time. The other 90% of the time, they're going to score a touchdown, or they're probably going to score a touchdown. That's not cost efficient. So out of 10 drives, he will stop one. They will score points on 7.4% of those drives. It does not balance out. They were not good when Jamal Adams blitzed. That's my spiel.
So let me ask you, having all that said, do you think Jamal Adams will have a better year next year?
He will. He needs to blitz way less. Way, way less. I do not give a shit about his sack numbers. The most important thing as a safety is covering a person. And he had 132 passer rating against him when he covered somebody. He has to improve that. That is the most important part he has to improve. I don't care if he gets 40 sacks or 0 sacks. Your job as a safety is to cover a guy. And as a DB, you have to cover somebody, especially in today's NFL, especially against today's good NFL. You can't not be able to cover at all. And he just couldn't cover at all. Cam Newton was a second, or what did I rank him at? Where did he get ranked at? Cam Newton was the 31st quarterback last year in passer, and he was 6 for 6 for 160 yards against Jamal Adams. He was like, I can't pass for anybody, and they drafted a quarterback in the first round, Mac Jones. And Cam Newton was like, I don't respect you, Jamal Adams, and still threw at him was perfect. Like, that's how bad it got. That's how bad it got in a game. Like, he has to improve that. And Matthew, yes, he will. All that said, he will be better next year.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm gonna let Kevin share his thoughts on what you said too. I think all of that is valid. It's just like I said before. I mean, if this is his floor, then that was
a terrible floor. It was a terrible floor.
It's a terrible floor, but that's fine. As long as it improves and this defense improves, then that's all that really matters. And obviously, health plays a factor into it. I mean, playing hurt is not easy, and especially in a contact sport like football, health really does matter. It really does. And so hopefully Jamal will be healthy next year and he'll improve. Kevin,
to be good, you got to play football. And I mean, like, it was like he only played 12 games. Well, that's not a positive. They were like, we only played 12. I'm like, that's a negative. I gave up 2 first rounders for you to play all 16 games, buddy. Like, I'm sorry, but like, we paid a king's ransom for you. You better play 16 games and better be a beast. He didn't play 16 games and he wasn't a beast. Like, that's just straight up. The trade was terrible. Like, I mean, first year was awful. Undoubtedly awful.
Well, I was also going to, with Matt's thing, I'm going to segment into, I get, Jamal, that you wanted to play in a playoff game, but when you can't raise one of your arms past here, it's probably best that your backup plays to where it gives your defense a better chance. Especially like you got like a thumbless Goff torched you because he knew you were injured and threw at you because he
I
knew
have his number. I have his numbers, Kevin. He was
Please,
100,
yes.
106 yards for a touchdown against Jared Goff in the playoffs. That
when,
at him, he gave
when throwing at Jamal Adams.
Yes, 106 yards and a touchdown.
Jamal Adams, I will at you for this podcast.
Please don't. No, we don't need to tag Jamal Adams. Like,
oh, I mean, he's got to know. Like,
no, he knows. Like, trust me, he watches the film. I mean, like,
it's not like
he'll play better.
I know I wouldn't, but it's not that we. And to Seahawks fans watching this, it's not that we hate Jamal Adams. We want him to be a beast. Like, we want Earl Thomas times 10,000 up there, or Cam Chancellor. Like, I want a hybrid baby of Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor being Jamal Adams. Like, that's what I want to see. That's what you give up 2 first-round picks for and a future giant contract that hopefully we do get him. Because, I mean, to give up 2 first rounds to not sign him, I would send Pete Carroll a pile of poop in the mail. But anywho, like, just that alone, like, honestly, it might have cost him, to be honest. Like, we should have done better as a whole defensively, yes, against a thumbless a thumbless Goff. But 106 yards and a touchdown, like, that's on us. You know, like, that could, I can't remember what the final score in that game was. What was the final score of that game?
I don't remember.
I blocked it out of my memory.
Yeah, he was
I know
against Jamal Adams. Yeah, I mean, they threw 10 times at him in the playoff game, and Jared Goff barely could throw. Like, they knew what they were doing. Kevin's right. They were like, we're going after Jamal Adams.
Gotcha.
That's not an elite safety. If someone looking at you and be like, of all these pieces, and the Seahawks didn't have great pieces, they're like, we want to target Jamal Adams. I mean, come on, that doesn't bode well for your play that year. And like Kevin's point, it's not so much. I mean, I would argue it's not even at Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams knows how he played. He might say all these things, but he knows how he played, and the team's gonna let him know how he played. It's more the fans that are like, he's a name. Like, I get it, he was really good in the past, but that doesn't dictate future play. He played bad as a Seahawk. It's okay. It doesn't mean he will play bad next year, but he just played bad. I do not care about his 10.5 sacks. Couldn't care less. What did he do when he didn't get home? Because we already showed it. 90% of the time he didn't get home. What happened those 90% of the time? Because that's much more likely to happen than the sack. And it's important to look at those 90%. And it was terrible. It was terrible. Thank God we played Colt McCoy and Dwayne Haskins, because it would have looked worse.
Colt McCoy beat us.
I know.
True.
Dwayne Haskins, granted, was also 30 yards away from beating us too, and got cut 2 weeks late. Dwayne Haskins got cut 3 weeks later and almost beat us in Washington.
Not for play though, but probably a little bit for play.
For a little bit, he was freaking terrible.
Yeah. And then let's segue into our final topic here. We're coming up on an hour. So in the realm of Jamal Adams, we talked about an extension, and according to Michael Sean Duger of The Athletic on his Twitter, Jamal would like to be paid as an elite pass rusher and not a defensive back. And so I just looked it up real quickly when I was at work today, and the highest paid defensive lineman is obviously Aaron Donald, $22.5 million. And then Leonard Williams is underneath him, as well as DeForest Buckner at $21 million each. In terms of defensive back salaries, the highest is Jalen Ramsey at $21 million, Marlon Humphrey at $19.5 million. So those are technically cornerbacks. I believe it's a little bit lower for safeties. So I'm just curious what you guys think he will sign an extension for, assuming he signs an extension. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I understand why he's advocating for defensive lineman money because of his sack numbers. I don't think the Seahawks will give it to him. I think he'll probably be the highest paid safety. That being said, and I believe when I looked it up, it was about $15 million for the highest paid safety. So I would probably put him to be paid a yearly salary of about $17 million if an extension gets done. He didn't play well, but like you guys have said, he gave up 2 first-round picks. So, man, I feel like you don't want to go too much, but you need to pay the man. And I think 17 million is probably right around what he'll get, and that would make him the highest paid safety in the league. Kevin, what do you think?
It'd be tough. Seahawks usually don't go for that title, if that makes any sense. I think he will be the highest paid. I'm thinking probably more around 16, like 15 to 16, just by like a smidge above whoever the highest at the moment is. Just because, and eventually, I mean, down the road too, we might have to restructure it, just because you want to fit the pieces in. Does he deserve it? At this point, no, of course. But you gave up what you gave up, so you kind of have to do it, and you just hope that next year is better. But I personally, because like a lot of people thought like Russell was going to get absurd amount of money when he was going. I mean, he got paid. Don't get me wrong, Russell got paid, but a lot of people thought he was going to get more than what he did.
He's still the highest paid quarterback at the time.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say between 15 to 16.
Before you go, Sean, I just looked up. Highest paid safety is Justin Simmons of Denver, 15.25 million. Buda Baker right behind him at 14.75. Eddie Jackson at 14.6. And then Kevin Byard at 14.1 and Tyrann Mathieu at 14. Those are the top five. Sean, what do you think?
Average safety is making, let's see, the edge rushers are about 24 million for the top five. And it's about, did I do that right? 24 million? There's no way. It's about 24 million. That top five for the safeties. It's top five for the safeties is about 14. So it's about $10 million more to pay him as an edge rusher than it is a safety. He cannot be paid as an edge rusher. Like, if he's asked to do it, fire everyone in the defense. If he has to take the safety contract, and unfortunately, Matthew, you're probably right. I try to get as close to that 15.2 as possible, but it's probably going to be like 16 a year. It's just so much money. You guys are right. I pay him 16 a year and just hope he gets better, because the cap you gave up, to the investment you gave to get him, you have to pay him. And unfortunately, he knows it. And his agent knows it. So I'm hoping it's 16. It'll probably be more than 16.
All right. Well, let us know what you think about how Jamal Adams performed last year and how you think he'll do this year, what his rating was on Pro Football Focus at the 10th ranked safety. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Beta Matt. Sean is at Sean Betty. Kev is at Kev Believes. The first team believes me at 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think of everything we've talked about today. I just want to let everyone know Jake Bauers has hit a home run to put the Mariners ahead 4-3 in the bottom of the 8th. So looks like the Mariners might be going back-to-back wins here. But me saying that, I probably jinxed it once I turn this podcast off.
Yeah, because Montero's going to come in. No. I have no idea if Montero's coming in.
No, it's striking right here.
But he pitched the last pitch. Oh, no, he's pitching now. You're right.
Yeah, it's striking right here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.